jettison to world stage, and it's happening right now. Next month it's starting. And coincidentally, if you didn't know, for Indian diaspora, ASEI was started right here in Michigan exactly 40 years ago. And I hope we have lived up to our founder's dream in running this for the 35th time. So as they say, it takes a village to build anything. It indeed took a village to get this thing going. So as you see from the various sessions and things that move on, first it was the pandemic that threw all of us into a tailspin. Then the inertia of getting out of it, it took forever. While we were pondering how to put big convention like this, the sponsors came. So without them, we wouldn't be here. Thank you so much. And for any technical content, we know content is, for any technical convention, content is king. So while we are really proud of our Indian heritage and leaders who are really jettisoning big corporations and they are going from billions to trillions of revenue, and not only those leaders are moving the corporations, they are here to help us to impart their knowledge and groom and grow the next generation of engineers and leaders. So we really sincerely thank all of you to come, and we have great sessions planned today. So the convention is laid out from what are the industry trends looking for the next 10, 20, 30 years. We have interesting speeches, keynotes, lightning discussions, and engaging panels throughout the day. So pick your topic. Whether you are an energy aficionado, you are an EV enthusiast, sustainability Samaritan, everybody has something to, bite off of from the panels and topics today. So we all know that, to go there are some obstacles and hurdles lay ahead. How do we build a sustainable world while we still strive to leave the planet better? What looms on the horizon through the existential climate crisis that's threatening us through extreme heat waves, catastrophic floods, and melting ice sheets. But we still strongly believe in pure human ingenuity, aided by technologies and innovations that help us solve even the unsolvable. So thank you for joining us. Pick your sessions. Let's get this going. And with that, let me invite our national president, Piyush. See here in the room, to say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. So good to see so many of you this morning, and I definitely need to use this because my voice has been gone for the last 3 days. It's an extreme privilege for me to be here. This is my second time in Detroit in the last, throughout the existence of my life. But more importantly, I couldn't have missed this. This is our 40th year celebration. So what I want to say is this organization wouldn't have been around if the forefathers of this ASEI wouldn't have started in Michigan. So please give a big round of applause to all Michiganders. And as you clap, look, my presentation has just arrived. Awesome. Not sure if there is a clicker. So, one thing is, thank you. I want to talk about how I got involved with ASEI. Like many of you in the audience, you are attending conference today. and some of you are speakers. And one fine day, I was on the stage in Silicon Valley. I was the chair for ASEIcon, which is an entrepreneurs conference, and almost 5,000 people were in the audience. And somebody from the audience comes up to me after my speaking was done, said, "Have you heard of ASEI?" I said, "What's that?" "We don't have anything like that in Silicon Valley." Yeah, I know. "And I'm the national chair of ASEI, and we are having a national convention. Why don't you come out there and speak for us?" And at that time, I was leading IBM's big data analytics practice of about 10,000 people, and worldwide role. So obviously, I used to go around and talk at different conferences. With IBM support, I, of course, nodded and went there. Great experience, great set of folks over there. Within a month of that, request came, we've been looking to start a chapter in Silicon Valley for the last 30 years. We don't have a chapter. Would you mind starting a chapter in Silicon Valley? With my extensive travel, I was traveling almost every week to a different country at that time. And I said, my travel schedule, my personal life, I don't think I can devote any time. So, and plus I needed to get the blessings from my corporate, right? So finally, it took us about 2 years before I settled in my yet another new role, and I had some time. And IBM gave us a starting seed fund to get started. Small corporate support, 2 volunteers, and there we go. Silicon Valley chapter was formed. That was way back in 2015. And since then, I've been attending a lot of ASEI conventions. The only difference here is now we are calling it ASEIcon. Yes, this is our 35th convention, and we will have all our conferences going forward branded as ASEIcon with the ear. So this is the very first debut of the word ASEIcon 2023. And I'm so glad that you are here to witness this historic moment. If only the technology would help me go forward. I want to show you some visuals. This is the bedrock of our strategy that we defined back in 2021, January, when I took on. We did some strategizing with the Executive Council. At that time, Ram, Jwalant, Vatsala, initially 4 of us brainstormed, and we came up with 3 pillars. And then slowly, as the years went on, we kept adding more pillars. So Mentor Connect is the foundation pillar here, structured mentoring program, 6 months. Many of you, especially in Michigan, have had a role in establishing that. Then the University Connect program, which is our touch point with universities around the nation. Every chapter is encouraged to have a student chapter, like Michigan chapter has been around, but Washington DC chapter was formed out of the what used to be called NCC chapter, and they had a very good relationship with University of Maryland. And Venkat here, I want to recognize Venkat. Venkat, please raise your hand. He was the student chapter president of the Maryland chapter, which he then graduated into being the Washington DC chapter when we revived it a few years ago. And so that's an example of University Connect program. Now we've got programs in many universities, especially in California and Dallas area, where we've already had touch points with 3 or 4 different universities. Many of them are getting formalized. SoCal chapter, at one point of time, they were sponsoring 3 universities, but it wanes and ebbs and flows. And all of this is because our organization depends on volunteers. So, that said, youth and technology programs are other ones where we provide scholarships to students, prizes for science fairs and things like that. And the Corporate Connect program I do want to talk about. Our sponsors come in there, our relationships with big companies, small companies, as well as our SERP program. And we'll talk about our SERP awards in the evening. And we have a founding father of our SERP program, Mr. Jag Kotha here. Jagji, please raise. He's the former national chair, and 20 years ago, he was in my shoes. So, rather, I am in his shoes after 20 years. So, and so he's here to show support to our corporate programs as well. And then there's the element of thought leadership. Okay, so what have we done in the last couple of years? During COVID time, we went into high gear, and we formed, while everybody was in lockdown, we did so many programs during COVID time, 24 months, 55 programs, and we made it virtual across all chapters, and we were able to enjoy the benefit of our community. Since COVID, in the last 1 year, combined all chapters combined, we've done 20 in-person programs, including this one. So 75 programs in the last 3 years during the time that I've been at the helm at National. And of course, who could shy away from social media? So we've adopted social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube in a big way. We also experimented with Clubhouse. Anyone heard of social audio? Clubhouse? Few of you. Okay, awesome. I used to be there every week for ASEI and every day for my other things. Anyways, one thing which I want to highlight here is, in addition to what we have seen here, diversity, equity, and belonging is something that we pride in. When I came to ASEI, there were hardly any women on the board. Now every chapter has at least 35 to 45% women on board. And of course, while we have done things and we have recognized through our awards program, ASEI board members have been recognized by national organizations such as NCWIT, NAP, Asian Hustle Network, Press Club. A lot of recognition there. This is a glimpse of some of these programs that we've had. I won't go into details, but I really want to give you a glimpse of what I'll be talking more in the evening. We've connected with schools, we've connected with universities, we've connected with corporates. That was the last 40 years. The next 40 years, we want to connect with the planet. You are talking about sustainability, we are talking about energy transition, we are talking about environment, and it's not that we are just talking about it today. Our last conference was also themed on sustainability. In this conference also, we are talking about energy transition, and this is what we'll be hearing more and more about. So with that, all I want to share with you is there are call to actions. If you are here in the evening, I'll talk more about it. But right now, this is what I envision. We want to be able to raise $40,000 a year to be given to students for scholarships. It's a tall goal, but ultimately I want to get to $1 million. This is a long view of ASEI, and we couldn't do it by ourselves. We need each and every member to join hands, and all the corporate folks to join hands as well. With that, thank you very much, and Muthu, back to you.
Thank you, Piyush. So when we chose the venue, Southfield, and we know in the metro Detroit area, it's the middle of everything, right? So first thing we wanted to have, proper welcome done by none other than the Southfield Mayor Ken Sever, who took my phone call, and the very next minute he said, I'll be there to welcome your delegates. Coming up, Southfield Mayor.
What a powerful microphone. If you weren't awake, sometimes I'm on a Saturday morning, I'm a little slow getting up. If you weren't awake this morning, you are now, right? Well, I want to welcome you all to Southfield. We are really, really pleased that you chose us. We are the center of it all in Metro Detroit, and particularly choosing this hotel for your hospitality. As the company, our JC, that took this hotel over. They rescued it. They put it back to life. It had seen hard times for a while, and so we're very grateful to them. Southfield is home of 80 of the Fortune 5,000 companies. We do not have GM and Ford or a former Chrysler, but next door we have BASF, which is a paint company for automotive. We have Morelli. We have the International Auto Components Company. We have Eaton. And then down the street we have the North American headquarters for Denso. We're very, very pleased to have, oh, and I forgot, Lear Automotive. So we're very, very pleased to have these companies. They are the sort of anchor in this city, besides law firms and medical. But we also, one of the things, and maybe some of you have been affiliated, we are the home of Lawrence Technological University. Anybody affiliated or educated to? No? I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Right up front. A blue devil. All right. And back there. Lawrence Tech, as you may or may not know, is the producer of about half of Michigan's engineers. It's a great business and engineering and architectural school, now getting into health sciences. And before I sit down, I just wanted to, prior to the speaker prior to me talked about sustainability. We are on a huge effort here in Southfield about sustainability. This country and this world cannot keep on the path that it's on, and particularly in America where we throw everything away. We just can't continue to do that. So it's going to be engineers that are going to help us change the course. So again, very, very pleased that you're all here, and welcome to Southfield.
Thank you, Mayor Ken. So before we move on to the next part in 30 seconds, we'd like to thank Sahil Chaturvedi, who's in the audience, who's been our hospitality coordinator right from the get-go when we planned this venue till today. He's been helping us non-sleep, without any sleep. Yep. And we have a little welcome video.
Good morning, everyone. I'm
Increase the volume.
And it is an honor to welcome you to ASEIcon 2023. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the annual ASEIcon National Convention and the 40th anniversary of the American Society of Engineers of Indian origin. And I want to congratulate all of you on this very important milestone. And I'm especially proud that this great organization was founded right here in Michigan. I'd also like to take a moment and recognize the invaluable contributions of the many South Asian diaspora engineers and STEM professionals working throughout Michigan today. This year's convention theme, the next generation of engineering and innovation, seems especially appropriate as you come together today to explore innovations in engineering and the future of the field. So again, congratulations on your success and enjoy ASEIcon 2023. Good morning, everyone. I'm U.S. Senator Gary Peters, and it is an honor to welcome you to
Hi, this is Congressman Shri Thanedar, the first Indian American congressperson from the state of Michigan. Also, I am a scientist, a PhD chemist, and I ran technical, scientific businesses for many, many years. So I welcome all of you, the ASEI, the American Society of Engineers of Indian Origin, to be in Detroit. I represent Detroit, I live in Detroit, and I love Detroit. And I welcome you to Detroit. I welcome you and thank you for the technical contribution, technology contribution Indian Americans have made to the success of the United States. Just to let you know, I serve on the Homeland Security Committee as well as the Small Business Committee, and I'm working to ensure that small businesses, get the support it needs from federal government, including access to capital, workforce development, apprenticeship. We also, as a Homeland Security member, I focus on reforming the immigration system. Especially, I'm working on doubling the H-1B visas. I am working on streamlining the green card process. It is taking way too long for people to get their green cards. And I have a system and I have a bill that will eliminate country quotas, that will give a preference to highly skilled, highly degreed scientists, engineers, to get away from the country quotas. So there's a lot I'm working on in the United States Congress. I also formed for the first time a Hindu caucus, the Hindu caucus in the United States Congress. So there's a lot that I'm working on, and I look forward to seeing you in person. But today I happen to be in Washington, D.C., where we are voting on some important bills. So sorry I couldn't be there, but let's stay in touch. If you need to reach my office, you can reach at canadar.house.gov, G-O-V. Hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Speaking of content, right? So we know content is king. A couple of content warriors who really helped us shape this convention from the various technical sessions. One of them for the mobility track being my partner in crime, Ashwini, who's who's put a lot of speakers together. So let me invite her without much further ado. Well, before that, she needs a special introduction. So we have Vatsala who's going to do that.
We cannot have Ashwini not getting introduced. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the nice morning. Yes, you are. Okay. So, did you realize that all our alphabets start with A for a reason? A is for auspicious, A is for ACI, and A is for Ashwini, the next speaker that we have. So, this is a microchip personified, because we compressed a lot of talent and intelligence into her, and she is the general manager, advanced engineering of Harley-Davidson Motor Company. And in 2019, she was, by Automotive News, she was designated the Rising Star title, and now she is risen. So come.
Everybody can see me? Okay. All right. All right. Have to check. Whenever there's a podium, vertically challenged people, that's the first check before the mic check. All right. Namaste, everybody. I'm really happy to see all of you here. I work mostly remote, but as you can tell, I'm an extrovert, so I draw energy from being around people. So today is my kind of day. So thank you for coming out here early in the morning. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce Mamta Chamarthi, our prominent Indian woman who is making strides in the C-suite as an executive in automotive. She is today transforming Stellantis from an automotive to a mobility company, not an easy feat by any means, well on the way to leading the growth of software and connected vehicle services to 20 billion euros by 2030. 20 billion. Let that sink in for a minute, yeah? She started her career in a very unconventional way. She started her career teaching English when she was inspired by her mother, who ran her own daycare business in Hyderabad. She then continued to disrupt herself many, many times by achieving multiple degrees. I've stopped keeping count of it, Mamta, in the US. And she started her career as a programmer at Chrysler, which was what it was called at that time. And then through her hard work and inspiring journey, she's made strides in the C-suite to CIO and CDO roles at CMS Energy, ZF, and Fiat Chrysler, and today Stellantis. She now leads an internal unicorn at Stellantis and getting them to a $1 billion revenue this year in software itself. Great job, Mamta. Despite her busy schedule, which I'm sure is absolutely nuts, she still finds time to help others in India and in the US. She is part of the Telangana government's Mobility Valley initiative and continues to be an advisor for them. And she's co-founded an organization called T200 that has over 1,000 women, over 50% of them are of Indian origin, committed to helping women progress to CIOs, CXOs, and board positions. I'm really honored to call her a dear friend, and what an honor it is for all of us to hear from her today. You're all in for a treat. That's a promise. Today, she will share insightful learnings from her own journey and key nuggets of what leadership can mean to each and every one of us here today. Please join me in welcoming my friend and Stellantis' Chief Growth Officer for Software Experiences, Mamta Chamarthi.
Thank you, Ashwini. That was a phenomenal introduction. And Ashwini and I kind of go a long way. We work together, and I think with Larry that's sitting up front here at ZF. And that was quite a transformation that we drove at ZF, and we all made it to C-suite elsewhere. And so I think that's good. ZF has trained as well. So we are at a location. I think a number of people have talked about the theme of this conference being innovation. Innovation in engineering, innovation in manufacturing, innovation in every aspect of our business. But we stand here at this location 100 years ago in Michigan, a disruption started. The disruption started by one person thinking exponentially, saying, okay, if we have horses, we can't have faster horses, but we need cars. And that disruption happened here in Michigan. And I'm happy that ASEI also was founded in Michigan. So not only did he disrupt from horses, moved us from horses to cars and brought us all close together, but he also created the assembly line. And then beyond the assembly line, he also made way to creating the 5-day work week. Today with COVID, we are talking about should we work 4 days? So think about all of the disruptions just one person can drive. And now what I'm going to challenge us today is collectively, how can we drive a disruption? Because every industry that we belong to is going through a major disruption. So we draw inspiration from so many people that are from Michigan, that are from the United States, and that are from India. And I think in India, I always take that example. You don't have to be an engineer to do anything because that problem-solving mindset comes so natural. There could be a person that's sitting at the corner of a street and you take a broken iPhone and they can fix that in 5 minutes. That's the mindset, that's the problem solving, that's the innovation mindset, that's part of the DNA. So let's use that. And then my message today is 3 things. As we look at innovating, where do we start? We start wherever we are. We start whichever role we are in and start with disrupting your company. As you start looking at disrupting your company, you need to think about For 100 years, our industry, especially the automotive industry, has been going through continuous improvement. That's linear thinking, continuous improvement, small incremental changes that we have made. And we've become really good at operational excellence. But we need to go past that because of the tectonic changes that are happening, not just in the auto industry, right? So we need to disrupt ourselves. How many of you have a ChatGPT or OpenAI account? So this past weekend was my husband's 60th birthday, so I'm kind of showing his age and also my age. And then, so I needed a fantastic message for the cake. So what I did was I went to ChatGPT and I said, can you provide me, and gave a bit of my connection to my husband. You know, I've known him since I was 7 years old and all of those things. And ChatGPT gave me a very beautiful message. So that's how technology, is disrupting. It took 100 years ago to disrupt the auto industry, but today it's just a matter of days, matter of months that technology is disrupting. So in that, we need to disrupt ourselves constantly, keep constantly learning. And then it's for us to disrupt ourselves and to disrupt our companies. What's the most important thing is to be not only surrounded by talent, but to have networked talent and thinking of bringing along everyone. So let's start with disrupting your company. So first, it takes like a bold vision to understand how your company is impacting the planet, the economy, and the customers. I'm so happy that Piyush, when you mentioned, we have gone past, partnerships with universities, partnerships with companies. Now we are looking at planet and the planetary challenges. As we all start looking at disrupting our company, what we need to do is start with the purpose, the core purpose that our companies have for the planet. So start with a planet-wide, bold vision. So when it comes to the auto industry, all of you know, especially in this room, these are the technology trends, not just individual trends that are impacting us, but all these trends are converging. And as these trends come together, they're turning the auto industry 180 degrees or upside down. We're not just looking at a new retail model where we go to online sales. I'll give you one example from Fiat Chrysler. There was like a month before COVID that I presented to our executive management and I said, let's move to online sales because that's a big friction point for our customers. And I said, let's think about it. We have this franchise laws and all of these things. Maybe how do we balance this with the dealerships? As soon as COVID hit, the very first initiative that we launched, because my team was ready by then, we launched online sales. And by the end of the year in 2020, 25% of our sales came from this online channel. 25% of sales came from the online channel. So I think it's not just about one trend, electrification or autonomous driving or the ownership model or connectivity, but all of these trends that are coming together that are disrupting the auto industry. And some of these trends are also impacting other industries. And I think for us, we need to understand, are these cool technologies? Great, these are cool technologies. But behind each one of them, there is a deeper purpose. There are 1.3 million people that get killed in car crashes every year across the world. 1.3 million people. That's a huge impact to the GDP of those countries too. If you think about the financial and profitability and things like that. And more than 95% of those accidents happen because of human error. And with advanced driver assist systems, and with autonomous driving, if we can augment the intelligence of the driver, If the car, with all of the data that it has, can connect with the data from point A to point B, then provide that intelligence saying that, hey, there is whiteout conditions and there is a 40-car pileup that has happened on I-96 and your route takes you through this path, and let me find an alternate path that's a safer route for you, then you would have avoided a pylon accident. Just simple example. So if we can send more than 90, 95, or even 100% of those 1.3 million people home, that would result in happy families. That's not just a technology, but it's a deeper, it's an ethical, it's a social responsibility of each and every one of our companies. And it's a social and an ethical responsibility for each one of us as individuals to send those 1.3 million people back home. So then you look at the climate change. Today, transportation contributes to 21% of the carbon footprint. And there are so many engineers in this room and people that are working on electric propulsion systems. So you know better than I do that once carbon is released in the environment, into the climate, it stays for a prolonged period of time. So even if we do everything that we can today with all of the policies, with all of the electrification goals and everything, we would still have increased the carbon footprint through transportation by 20%. Again, going back to the social and ethical responsibility to leave the planet a better place is on each and every one of us. And that's the impact of technology. So, of course, we need to think about technology and how it impacts disruption. But what's most important is to understand the customer. What does a new mobility customer want? They want new experiences. Now, once the car is connected, I want the car to be like the same Alexa device that I have at home. I want to say, hey, Jeep, turn my master bedroom light. Or I want like, hey, Jeep, show me the nearest off-road trail. And I don't know off-road driving. Coach me, put me there. Make sure you capture all of my experiences. Help me put that on social media. Get my friends, share my location with my friends, and get my friends over there. Right? That's experience for the customer. Well, that also turns into money for me and for our company. So that's not only a great experience, right? But they want the vehicle to know them. They want their car to be safe and reliable. Again, going back to that 1.3, the foundational trust a driver, customer, passenger has when they get into a car is that they will go safely from point A to point B, that they will go safely from point A to point B. So safety is the foundational trust when you get into that car. And of course, with the car collecting so much data, well, I may not want my children to know, or maybe my husband to know that I went to Saks Fifth Avenue to get my next dress, okay? So I want my data to be secure. I want to share when I am willing to share. It's not that you are collecting. You can collect to improve the quality of the product, but take my consent and show me the value-added experiences that come from collecting this data so that you safeguard my safety and my data security. And integrate this vehicle into my digital life. I've already given you an example. And then the onboard experience, now you have a little heads-up display that's showing you the route and everything. But imagine having an augmented and AI experience within the cockpit, which is what Stellantis is launching in partnership with Amazon pretty soon. And I think for all of these things to happen, I think, Piyush, you know this, it's a cloud first, voice first, digital first, that kind of a mindset. And I think when you talk to the automotive engineers, We always think mechanical engineering platform. We get super excited. I get super excited. When I drive my Dodge Challenger Hellcat, it's at 707 horsepower, and it goes 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. The adrenaline rush is just super, right? But we need to start thinking about the customer and how do we drive that customer experience. So I think these are Stellantis's goals. We call this our Dare Forward strategy, Dare Forward 2030. It is Dare Forward because of the goals that we have as a company. And those are our core values. We are customer-centric. We start with the customer. We are agile because it's so ambiguous. There is no playbook for the disruption that's happening today in the auto industry. There's no playbook. So we have to be agile. It's not like, okay, I want to be agile. It's a good thing. I want to, use SAFe methodology or the Spotify's methodology. We have to be agile and innovative because there's no other way. We care for the future, and we win together. Those are the values, and the bold vision that we have as Stellantis is to reduce the carbon footprint by 50% by 2030 across all of our processes, from design and even the material that we use in the car. How can we use everything that can be recyclable? The BEV sales mix, of course, we are driven by regulation in Europe to 100% BEV mix by 2030. And in US, if we can solve for, and that is probably all of the engineering brains here can think about, make the car more affordable, especially given the inflationary pressures that we all have. A car is, an EV especially, is not that affordable for everyone. So how can we make the car more affordable? How can we remove those customer friction points? Right? Even if I charge at home for in-city driving, it's fantastic. But once I go 400, 500, 700 miles, what happens? I go to a gas station, it takes me less than 3 minutes to pump gas. But when it comes to charging, it takes 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and my drive time goes up. And so charging infrastructure, these are only some of the things that I'm talking about. And then, of course, we want to be number one in terms of our customer experience. And why did I list the financials? And why did we as Stellantis list financials? Unless you're profitable, you can't make the investments. Unless you have the positive free cash flow, you can't attract investors to your company. So for the startups out there, think about free cash flow, think about profitability with your new ventures. So we have to be profitable to make all of the investments to drive these disruptions. So what is my vision for software? That's my vision, not only to drive great customer experiences, but profitable software products that deliver the best customer experiences marketed the right way using a secure data-driven experience. And this, again, is our from our software-defined vehicle strategy from Stellantis. This is what I'm going to be sharing with you again today. Our target by 2030 is to have 34 million monetizable cars. We consider monetizable car only in the first 5 years after a car is launched. And after a car is sold, that's when we consider that as a monetizable car. So we want to have 34 million connected monetizable cars across the world, and that we are able to make those over-the-air updates. So that when you know that you're in a Jeep Wrangler, the customer example I took, and if I have to coach you, and if I have to deliver to you an on-demand feature, it is through this over-the-air updates, 400 million over-the-air updates, and 20 billion in revenue that Ashwini spoke of, and at tech company margins, 40% gross margin. And we will be 1/20th of the way there by the end of this year, but we have a very aggressive plan to get to 20 billion. And the 5 business pillars, it's not just the one-time sale of the car. One-time sale of the car comes from this vehicle pricing and resale value. That's the one-time, either the sale or the resale. But most of our revenue today is coming from subscriptions, from features on demand, data as a service, fleet, businesses, service retention, conquest, and cross-selling. And our new platforms, the 3 tech platforms that we would be delivering on top of the 4 EV platforms, Stella Small, Medium, Large, and Frame, reduces complexity in automotive industry, where especially for Stellantis, we have 14 brands across 6 regions. Underneath the brands, we have several nameplates. Imagine the complexity. And whenever I talk to engineers, they come to us with solutions that sometimes go the reverse of increasing complexity. So how can we reduce the complexity so that we can scale and we can be more agile? So these platforms of Stella Brain, which is the new electrical architecture, today with our new Atlantis High, or not so new, Atlantis High electrical architecture, about 12 components in the car are over-the-air updatable. But with Stella Brain, 100% of the components will be over-the-air updatable. With the smart cockpit, we have a partnership with Amazon. We will deliver on-demand, personalized, customized experiences to our customers that they would be hooked on, just like they're hooked on to a Jeep, just like they're hooked on to a Maserati, just like they're hooked on to a Dodge. AutoDrive is our, Stella AutoDrive is our autonomous driving strategy. And up until level 3, we have a partnership with BMW to bring L2 Plus. And pretty soon we will be bringing L2 Plus with our Jeep Grand Cherokee into the market next year, first quarter next year. And we'll continue to work with Waymo on level 4 and level 5. So as you can see, it's not just about internal talent. Earlier, we used to rely quite a bit on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, and we'll continue to. But when it comes to software talent, we are bringing it all in-house. So we are hiring close to 4,000 software engineers, not just in US, in France, in Italy, but in India, Poland, across the world. So I think going beyond disrupting your company, we all have a responsibility, as ASEI has this responsibility. We all have responsibility to contribute with our knowledge, and my contributions are to Michigan Council of Women in Technology and T200. I want to see more women sitting in the audience like this. I want to see more women raised to the C-suite. I want to see more women making critical decisions, driving more general management and revenue positions. So with that, I've co-founded T200, and it's all about women lifting other women. It's all about, not about, am I getting something? It is about how can you as a woman help the other women succeed in their career, and with whatever they have defined as success, not what you have defined as success. I think you've talked, Ashwini, about my Telangana involvement. I'm an advisory board member for the Industries Minister, Mr. KTR. And this whole thing started when I was looking at ZF, and we were doing some due diligence on setting up a technical center in India. I've had no experience setting up an engineering center. I had experience setting up IT centers, but not engineering. So when I went to Bangalore, Pune, Telangana government brought to us such a fantastic proposal. They said, if you want to hire 1,500 people, we'll train 3,000 people, and you hire the best 1,500, and it will be on our dime. We'll help you find a great location. So that's how the whole partnership started. And then there were not that many automotive jobs, maybe less than 100 in Telangana at that time. But today, because of this Mobility Valley, and today because of the contribution to Telangana, we have more than 7,000 automotive jobs in Hyderabad. So it's not just about disrupting your company and disrupting yourself. Also think about how do you contribute to the community with all of the knowledge that you have. So in disrupting yourself, I'll quickly go through this. First, start by leading yourself. It doesn't start with anyone. It starts with you. And you start leading by yourself. Know your values. As you understand the purpose of your company, understand your purpose. Be that purpose-driven leader. So if you will demonstrate meaning when you find meaning. And if you think that someone else is not believing you, maybe you start questioning yourself and reflecting, am I believing myself? When you start believing yourself, the whole world will fall behind and start believing you. And exit your comfort zone. You know, Ashwini introduced me as this, I've done my master's in English in Osmania University, very proud of that, and taught English, and then went on to do engineering. And then pivoted into a CIO IT role, CIO role, Chief Digital Officer role at ZF, leading a business transformation, not just a software engineering transformation. And when I came back to Fiat Chrysler, I was an hourly worker at Fiat Chrysler, or Chrysler. Okay? And I would look at this beautiful executive dining room and the 15th floor thinking, hopefully one day I'll get there. And today it gives me great pride that if you put your heart and soul, that whole law of attractiveness does work. So several times in my career, I've pivoted from my comfort zone. I could have been in IT. I could have had a global CIO position CIDO position at Stellantis. But when there was, I saw this whole software-defined vehicle, I went with a white paper to our CEO and to all of the executive management, including our CHRO, and said, you know what? I can do a business role. I've been in IT and digital helping business deliver business results. I want to be that business right now, delivering those business results. And here's my white paper. Here's how I'm going to achieve it. Maybe not everything was 100% accurate in that white paper, but I think there was a boldness that our CEO liked, our CHRO liked. And he said, why don't you put together a strategy? And I got a chance to talk with the Wall Street, all of the investors of Stellantis, and understood their expectations, and led what is called an Investors' Day called Software Day to talk about the software-defined vehicle strategy for Stellantis. So exit your comfort zone. Whenever you start feeling, well, I can do this, put yourself out there. And of course, you'll have the imposter syndrome. You'll start questioning yourself. Did I take this role? What was I thinking? So when I'm like 50 million short in terms of delivering my revenue, I'm scratching my head going, what IT role would that have been much more comfortable, right? But I think, imagine the growth that you're taking the company through and that you're taking yourself through. And also understand you don't have to know it all. I always tell people, build your own personal board of directors. That is so important. When I pivoted into this role, I looked at my mentors. I looked at my personal board of directors, and I thought, I need a CFO in my board of directors. I need a CEO in my board of directors. I need not just one. I need multiple CEOs in my board of directors. Make sure, no matter which role you're in, build your personal board of directors for the role you're in, and slowly start transitioning that personal board of directors to the aspirational role that you have. And hopefully one day I'll be leading an independent business. That's the aspiration that I'm sharing publicly. And when I asked Egon Zehnder about what makes a good CEO and what makes a good business leader, they look at the spikiness in terms of innovation and digital, your theme here, a spiking. So all these spiky ones is where they want to see a differentiator when they choose a CEO candidate. So think about that as you come up with your own aspirations. So in terms of my own growth at Stellantis, I seeded with the strategy, in 2019, and then expanded it. Year over year, we have been growing our revenue, growing our gross commercial margin, and then now I'm looking at scaling with all 6 regions reporting to me, and I'm working very closely with our CEO and our COO. So it's been a phenomenal journey, and talent you can't do without talent. And again, this board of directors, this crowdsourcing, that's the name of the game today. And don't build your networks when you need them. Please, if there is one takeaway from all of this, when you need a job, don't go to LinkedIn and don't go talk to Ashwini and say, Ashwini, is there an opening? And Ashwini does not know you. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know your background. So pay it forward. Pay it forward. Start giving away to the community, to your company in all aspects, and things will, when you need it, people will automatically start helping you, will naturally start helping you. That's also, by the way, the DNA of our culture. We think about group, the collective, wisdom, collective winning. We're not an individualistic society. And with all of the crowdsourcing and all of this talent, where it's heading is all about that. So I think what I'm going to do is end here, because I've talked about quite a bit. What you can do as a brilliant takeaway from this is go out there. You have so much potential. Unleash your potential. Be the CEO. Go transform the world. There's no one stopping you. Thank you.
We have a little small token of gift, and thank you so much for this inspiring keynote. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the next session, there's a little teaser on what's coming, so that many of you didn't know, are not there, and we will be setting up the next session. Bring on Ashwini. Go ahead, Nila. Are they all here? Okay. Yeah, we don't have a break per se, so we'll be moving on to the next session. Let me hand this over to Ashwini while we set up. So we have the next session coming up about mobility by 2035.
All right, back again at this. All right, good morning again, everybody. Mamta, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much for making time out of your day. Let's give her a round of applause again. So this next discussion, I'm super excited about. People that know me would probably call me a futurist, always thinking about what's next, right? I can never be satisfied with where I am. So always thinking about what's next, peeking into the future. So that's exactly where we're going to go. So please come back. I promise you'll have time for tea, coffee here soon. You don't want to miss this discussion. So I'd like to welcome our panelists to the stage. Indrapal Diol, Larry Shuster, and Amrit Mehta. We're going to talk into how this industry is going to look like in 2035. So our panel discussion here is titled Mobility in 2035. Right. Do you want, I can pass the mic too. You want to go sit over there in the middle? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll get comfortable. We can share this too in the, yeah. All right, let's just give people, I think people just went to grab coffee. Right. That's okay. So. That's okay.
You know, I did have my notes, but I would be cheating in the exam.
No, I have my notes. You're fine. I have bigger ones, more prominent.
I should have brought my notes. Is it still, maybe I should go grab all that. I didn't write them.
You're an eloquent speaker. You don't know. Fine.
No, just the numbers. Sometimes, you know, I don't want to get the figures wrong, right? 40%.
Oh.
You're going to zoom in there.
He has too many zoomed in pictures. Yes. What's that? Live streamer. Oh, and the red light. Okay, okay. Inge vechudriya? Yeah.
That was really awesome.
Yeah, she's a very dynamic speaker, so.
I didn't know she was an English major.
She started as an English major, yeah.
Such an inspiration for
yes,
many, right?
Yes, yes.
That you can pivot.
Correct.
You know, believe it or not, when I got out of high school, my goal was to become a nurse as well.
Oh, really?
There's
Interesting.
It as well, so.
Interesting. Very
Maybe I'll
interesting.
share that with you someday.
Okay. Okay, we can just go. All right, let's get started and let's dive right in. If people, I'm sure you're having very enriching conversations. I'll promise you there's a break after this. You can continue those. You don't want to miss what the panelists have to share, so let's dive right in. Good morning, my dear panelists.
Morning.
All right, so they're all very eloquent speakers, so I'm not going to take away time from them, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves so you can understand a little bit of the background. But what we have tried to do here is to make sure that when we talk about mobility in 2035, as Mamta was saying, it's not just the automakers anymore. We need the automakers, we need the supply chain partners, we need the infrastructure partners, we need all these industries to come together in order to make our dreams a reality. So we've assembled a multi-dimensional panel for you today, and I'm going to go ahead and give the mic over to them so they can introduce themselves.
Okay, good morning, Ashwini. First of all, I want to thank you as well as the organizers to giving me the opportunity to come and talk to such a great group of folks here. I am Indrapal Diol, and my current position is Vice President of Power Generation, or we call it an energy supply with DTE Energy. And I've been with DTE for over 17 years, and I've had various roles, leadership roles, as well as from business planning to operational roles. I was at one time the first female plant manager at Monroe Power Plant. That is the largest power plant in Michigan, as well as second largest now in United States. And I'm also proud to say that I am the first female vice president of a operating unit at DTE Energy as well in a power generation. So some of the things that I wanted to mention. So, and then, before DTE, I had an 11-year career with Ford Motor Company. So I had done manufacturing roles, quality roles, STA, quite a bit there. And I have a couple of years with the steel industry as well. By education, I'm a chemical engineer, and I received my chemical engineering degree from Wayne State, and then I have done master's in product development from University of Detroit Mercy. I have my master's MBA from University of Michigan Ross School of Business. Go ahead.
Oh, that's right. Can you hear me okay? All right, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity, Ashwini and the ASEI. You did promise us easy questions today, right?
I have surprised ones too.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, on that note, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'll keep it brief. I was going to say look up LinkedIn because our lives are like an open book these days. But anyway, I'm Rith Mehta. I head up strategy and growth at Bridgestone Mobility Solutions. Most of you know Bridgestone as a tire company, which is a fact. I mean, Bridgestone has been around for about 100 years. Actually very successful in the premium tire business in about 150 countries. What most people don't know is we actually set up a new mobility solutions division in the company, which is a growth P&L. And that happened in January. So I joined the C-suite reporting to the CEO as head of strategy and growth. It's a really exciting time in the industry, as you all know. And prior to that, I was at a major...
There are those?
That was my supporting music there. Prior to that, I was at a major OEM for about 25 years. Had a really great time working on a bunch of different things. Had 15 different jobs in 25 years. That's either a good thing or a bad thing, by the way. And I think the best way to put it is I spend a third of my time in the product side as a technologist, product manager, product developer, product planning, product management. Good example there is I actually had, as head of planning, led the advanced concept and development for 10 electric vehicles. So that was really good timing, right? The other third I spent as a change agent, a transformational business leader. So I was brought in to transform businesses, move businesses forward, and had a chance to work on the 2030 connected vehicle strategy, which was, again, a really exciting thing to do. And the other third was running P&L and operations. So I'm sort of a jack of all trades. I have an undergrad in engineering from India, did an MBA, and then decided to do a CPA, which is a complete right turn. And don't ask me why, but that kind of goes to show that I like kind of finance and numbers, and I'm a P&L leader as well as a technologist. So that's kind of my background. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Larry Shester, Dr. Larry Shester.
Yes,
sorry,
thank
Ashwini
you.
corrects me every time I say it or miss it. So I just recently graduated, actually, with a doctorate, so that's why I keep on forgetting, so back in July. So I am currently the head of autonomy and connectivity engineering at Flex Automotive. Flex is this gigantic company, about 180,000 employees, and nobody's ever heard of them. But we do all sorts of stuff. I work in the automotive division. The autonomy portion, we do hardware for level 4 autonomy and all sorts of sensors and things like that. And then connectivity, devices that do communication within vehicle, et cetera. Prior to my role at Flex, lots of engineering roles, also program management roles, a lot in the automotive industry, multiple tier ones. As Mamta mentioned, and Ashwini, I come from ZF as well. At the same time, we were all there. I worked in ADAS there. I worked in braking, a lot of safety products. My recent PhD is in electrical and computer engineering, focused on autonomy research. So specifically autonomous driving, lane merging into highways. So very technical guy. I like the engineering side of things. That's very much so my focus here. So glad to be here speaking in front of all of you.
Larry's pretty awesome with people too. I've worked with him enough to know that too. So he downplays that, but he's pretty good. All right, let's dive in. So the first question I have for all of you is when we talk about mobility industry, if we fast forward to 2035, what does that mean to each one of you? So Inder, maybe you can start.
Sure, absolutely. So mobility and industry, as we know, it's going to go more into electrification. In 2035, what I believe, my vision, or what I think what's going to happen is, for that to happen, there's a lot of other things that also have to occur. Number one is we need to have the infrastructure, right? Number two is we need to have it affordability. Number three is the reliability. So where, from the utility perspective, I'm from the utility, the one thing that we're working on, or, I see that every utility or power industry will have to do is build the infrastructure to support the 2035 goals. I do believe that this is going to progress, a little bit slower than what we all are envisioning at this time, right, Ashwini? Yeah. We talked about it, that in 2035, I see about 40% of electrification going into 2035. We at the utility, we have to be ahead of the game. We have to come along with also the manufacturers as well in order to make sure the infrastructure from charging perspective as well as from the generation load perspective, we're going to be ready. There's a lot needs to be done at this time. So my vision for 2030 is really looking at it from the industry perspective and from the utility perspective, that there's a lot more needs to be done. But I do believe that by 2050, 2055, we're going to see a really high penetration of EVs. I still see that being a major thing for personal vehicles. I think there's going to be some sort of a different solution for the larger, like mass transportation or commercial vehicles and stuff like that. So at this time, I think the 2035, we're gearing up from the utility perspective to by 2035, about 40% electrification. And, we have our plans in terms of upgrading the grid, as well as making sure we're supporting the manufacturers in every way we can in order to facilitate the transition to EVs. Larry?
So 2035 in the mobility industry, right? So electrification for sure. Lots of energy, lots of money being spent on electrification today. Really, all the automotive companies are spending lots of development dollars in that space. So you will see new vehicles, new technology coming out. They're expensive today. You will see the price come down maybe a little bit. There's range anxiety, range concerns, lots of things like that. But you're also going to see this trend in development towards increased range, right? 700-mile range, right? So that means you can basically drive all day without a charge. So this range anxiety tends to go away. That enables adoption, right? So electric vehicles, yes, it will be a big thing. What will be the adoption rate? Not sure, right? So maybe 40%, don't know. The average age of vehicles on the road today, 12 plus years. Right, so over 12 years. So even if you switch to 100% electric vehicle sales today, you're still only going to see a small percentage as time goes on. So by 2035, if you're fully selling all electric vehicles, right, you're still going to have lots of time that you need to get the ICE vehicles really off the road. The other things we see, though, in terms of trends for 2035, there's really three as I see it, right? So electrification, really big, certainly going to be a focus, lots of money being spent there. We also see software-defined vehicles, right? So we just heard the keynote speech mention software-defined vehicles, big trend. Everybody's moving to software-defined vehicles. Autonomy, ADAS is kind of part of that, but I think at times out in the public, we don't quite understand what software-defined vehicles actually means and the significance of it. What's happening is you're centralizing the entire compute system of the vehicle itself. all of those different microprocessors within all of the devices, whether it's a steering system or a braking system or anything else, you're moving all of that into a centralized system. There's lots and lots of tier ones that are doing this work today. There's lots and lots of companies, silicon companies, many different engineers who are working on these products today, but the OEMs are now going to develop the software. So there's going to be a huge shift, and Mamta talked about it, right? So they're hiring lots and lots of software engineers. So that intellectual property, that know-how, moves from the suppliers into the OEMs. That's a huge change, right? So we're going to see lots and lots of momentum, lots and lots more discussion about it, and lots of challenges to get there, right? Because there's a lot of companies that know how to do it today, but you're going to have the OEMs transitioning and really kind of learning again some of those things that the tier ones and other suppliers have already learned. Autonomy, it's a trend, right? So we see a lot of value in ADAS, right, for sure. People see the value of saving lives, protecting people. Lots of commercials you see where the car stops itself, whether it's in reverse or going forward before it hits a vehicle. Everybody sees that as something that's important. True autonomy, though, vehicles driving themselves, maybe that happens by 2035, not quite sure. I think it's actually maybe further away than that. It's a very difficult problem to solve. You may need to see roadway changes in order for it to happen. You're going to need to see lots and lots of shift, and also the age of the vehicle comes into play too. So if you have autonomous vehicles available today, it's going to take a lot of time for those to just get out in the marketplace and become more common. So certainly, lots of challenges from a technical perspective, and lots of change, lots of shift that we're beginning to see here.
Thank you, Larry. Amrita, how about the OEM perspective in all this mix?
Yeah. No, great question. I mean, 2035 feels like it's right here, but it's still 12 years away, right? And in terms of what comes to mind first, I truly believe we're in a once-in-a-generational shift in the mobility industry, actually multiple generations. Some would say 100 years. And it's really fortunate for us to be here in this time. And I actually blogged about this on LinkedIn. It's on my profile if you look it up. And I kind of penned this idea of the customer-driven mobility ecosystem. And what that is basically, if you think of the automobile or transportation as we know it, there's really three domains, right? There may be more than three, but there's essentially three at a high level. There's the hardware, the vehicle itself, right, or the device. There's the energy system. We call it gas stations today. It'll be something else in the future. And there's software. Now, software is mostly new, right? I mean, that wasn't a feature of cars for a long, long time. And as you look across those three domains, virtually everything is changing at a fast pace at the same time, which is unprecedented. I don't know the last time that happened actually in the car business, in the mobility business. So that presents completely new challenges. I worked at an OEM where we had to completely redo the plan from ICE to BEV in a matter of 3 years. And it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of, kind of trying to predict the future, which is difficult to do. And so I'll touch on each of these three domains. So when you think of hardware, right, the hardware itself is changing fundamentally. You mentioned software-defined vehicle, it's battery electric, fewer mechanical parts. There's a whole bunch of changes there. And your point about the car park, Larry, is a good one. I mean, there's 250 million vehicles, give or take, in the US on the road today. About 16 million sold every year. So if you went to 100% today, electric, it would take a long time to change the car park. So, we have some time, but it's going to happen pretty rapidly after a while. So I think we've got some time. There's going to be mixed fleet solutions in the meantime. But the biggest challenge for the industry is how do you get the costs down, right? The battery electric costs, lithium ion, down to the actual raw materials. You need to get to cost parity with internal combustion. And that's, that cost curve, everyone's trying to race down that cost curve right now. And there's a lot of regionalization of supply chains, as you can see, right? So that's a big challenge for hardware, on the hardware side. On the energy side, I mean, the whole charging infrastructure is fascinating, right? I mean, when you think of what's happening, there's all kinds of partnerships. That business hasn't proven to make money just yet. It's very expensive to put up infrastructure. And then, it's all about utilization, right? Tesla did it, and they actually had a big capital investment, and they're reaping the benefits over time. But it takes a long time to get your payback on the infrastructure. And I think that's where partnerships are going to be really important. And then when you think about software, that's completely new, right? Just trying to do over-the-air updates. I think the number that was shown earlier by Mamta was like some 140, 50 million. I mean, that's unprecedented. Trying to do that with excellence, without any glitches, I mean, that's new territory for the industry. And quite frankly, everybody wants to monetize software, right? Because that's the new, it's high margin, but it's completely new territory. So ultimately what needs to happen is we like to talk about point solutions. We talk about fuel cell electric vehicles. We talk about charging companies. We talk about, software. We talk about these things individually, but the whole thesis of my write-up is we need an ecosystem approach that solves real customer problems, right? That's how we're going to win as an industry. And, it's not about the point solution, it's about the ecosystem as it comes together. I'll give you a couple of examples. And this is from my current job. When you think of tires, I mean, it's pretty run-of-the-mill, right, for the most part. But here's the thing, tires are a high wear item for fleets, because fleets run, especially heavy trucks, class 4 to 8. And the question we're asking ourselves is, first of all, you got to build a solid, industry-leading product, right? It starts with product, so you have to have a solid product there. But then how do you combine that with tire-mounted sensors, data from telematics providers? So we actually own a TSP. Bridgestone bought two TSPs in the last 6 years. We have a global presence in Europe, in Africa, Middle East, and in the US, as well as South America. So you got to combine that with data from TSPs, and then essentially link that up to your service network so you can get more predictive with the customer in terms of casing health, tire wear patterns. And when you combine that with retread, which is a highly sustainably oriented business, you can significantly reduce your CO2 footprint with retread. You can create essentially a managed tire solution for the customer. So you see how you combine your bricks and mortar, your hardware, your software. Essentially, all of that has to come together that in a way that reduces cost of ownership for a customer, reduces CO2, and improves uptime, right? So this solution approach for the ecosystem is, as technologists, as business leaders, we really have to think of what's not what's the point solution, but what's the ecosystem solution for the customer. Battery electric vehicles are storage systems. Can someday we'll power our houses through bidirectional charging. That's a solution that we all need at some point. So I think that's the fascinating part, is really taking that approach. And it's a hugely disruptive time, but there's tons of opportunity. And I really hope that between now and 2035, as an industry, we develop solutions, not just point solutions, but ecosystem solutions. And just as a fun fact, you have to sometimes look back to look ahead. So I asked myself, what happened 15 years ago? The Great Recession, 2008, right? Which was not a fun thing. But the iPhone was introduced as a first smartphone in 2007 as a point solution. But think of the iPhone today, the smartphone is an ecosystem solution. It's an app store, it's a music player, it's your camera. It's a number of things, right? That's how we have to think as an industry.
All right, thank you so much. I told you all of these people are brilliant, so you're hearing all great nuggets today. So here's the surprise question. So I always think when we talk about technology, we need the believers, we need the realists, we need the skeptics as well. Because without the skeptics, we wouldn't make the technology better. We would just make it very idealistic that no one can actually use. So the question to the panelists is, where would you classify yourself? Because I think we talked about the challenges already. So where would you see yourself today? And do you think you'd like to move to a different zone in the future? Larry's thinking, what was I thinking saying yes to Ashwini?
It's an interesting question, right? And similar, looking at the past to look towards the future. 10 years ago, I was in braking, right? And we were doing brake-by-wire systems, and that was cutting edge, and that enabled electric vehicles, right? And then after that, I moved into ADAS. Very exciting time, right? We were on an incredible growth trend. And now it's kind of commoditized, right? So it's changed a bit. And then after that, I went into battery management systems. So that was pretty exciting, wireless battery management systems for GM vehicles. And that too was exciting, right? Now I'm in autonomous compute hardware, connectivity, but autonomy has taken this weird turn, right? So we had the closure of Argo, what, 6 months to a year ago?
Yeah.
And I think the industry, even before that, the industry was questioning how long it would take to get to true autonomy. Prior to that, everybody was saying, oh, it's next year, right? It's at the end of the year, right? Lots of promises, but promises never came through. And we're seeing this cooling trend as well, right? So where in the future? I like to stick with kind of high technology products, right? And I'm kind of excited about what the future actually holds, because I don't really know, right? Where I want to go next. Maybe it's autonomy, but again, it's kind of cooling off there. I don't know. It's a good question. Electrification, great place? I don't know.
Next time I call you, still say yes?
I struggle with that question every day. You know, I mean, honestly, the world is changing so fast, and one of my problems is I get bored easily, so I have to always look for the next thing. I almost want to put myself in the middle of the hardest problem that we have to solve at any given point of time. Somebody talked about being a nation of problem solvers. You know, that's kind of how we think, right?
Yeah.
How we're trained to think, and I love that because, you know, there's a lot of problems to solve, and there are days where I'm actually running a P&L, you know, and when my team is trying to hit the number for the month, and it's all about how do you work the operational side of the business. There are days where I'm a technologist, where I'm reviewing product plans with the software development team and the product management team, and trying to ask them, how can you do this faster? And what's the right solution? How do we prioritize features and feature sets in a digital product roadmap? And I love that. And there are days where you're just trying to dream about a future that's not there. And you're trying to invent new solutions. So I think we have to be versatile, I think, in a way, and it's hard to, at least for me, to be overly specialized. But one thing I do know is I want to be in the middle of a transformation or solving the hardest problem at any given point of time. That's kind of my DNA, as I've learned through the years.
Awesome. Thank you. A great question, actually, Ashwini, and a great surprise as well. So what I would say is, it is right now, from utility industry and personal perspective, these are transformational times. If we look at it currently, more than 40% of our electricity is produced by fossil fuels. So from that perspective, right, we have to, when we talk about electrification or grid for the future, or where the generation is going to come from, there's a lot needs to be done. So what I currently, I have to continue to operate the current fuels. With current fuels, continue to produce the electricity that is absolutely needed by our customers, right? We live in a different world on the western side. Majority of us are from India, and we know that power outs are common things, right? Brownouts are common things. Here, it's unacceptable, right? It is unacceptable. We need to make sure our customers get the power that they need, and it's well-deserved, from their expectation perspective. So, I need to continue to do that, so I, work in that space, but at the same time, we know that the transformation is coming. We need to decarbonize. When we need to decarbonize, there's three factors that we have to look at. That is where the strategy comes in, right? It needs to be affordable for our customers. It needs to be reliable. And then, we need to achieve our carbon reduction goals as a utility or as a society as well, right? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. So that's a hard balance. So, that's always the strategic side of that I need to focus on. And then that's where I like to actually, spend quite a bit of my time as well. It is a very difficult equation to solve at this time. We all know that, we need to decarbonize, but what are the solutions out there? Right now, you need a base load. I'll just share an example. Yesterday was just a very typical day. As a DTE Energy, we have 2,000 megawatts of, renewable resources out there, and they were producing 10 megawatts total. 10 megawatt. So that is the realization that the customer base and everyone has to have. That in order to replace the current baseload generation, that's either your coal or your gas, you're going to have to build 20 times more renewable sources. That's number one. And then secondly, you need to have solutions like battery storage or a different type of fuel that is going to generate the electricity. Right now, we have none of that, right? Battery storage, not whole, there's some, but not a long duration battery storage. So in Michigan climate, sun doesn't shine every day. Wind doesn't blow every day. So battery storage is going to become a key, and we do not have the long duration battery storage implemented. So that's the area that where I currently operate, and I think that from the strategy side of it, but there's a lot more needs to be done in that space, Ashwini, like I said earlier, and I don't know if anyone has the solutions. Well, we will use hydrogen to generate electricity from 10 years from now. We can't even get one electrolyzer funded and approved and to do some workaround with that. So.
Thank you, Inder. I know I kind of threw the question at you people as a curveball, but I think the common thread, even though all of you come from different perspectives, is saying you should be able to wear different hats. Maybe even on the same day, even in the same hour, depending on what challenge is thrown at you at that time. Being able to tackle today's challenges without forgetting the challenge that we need to solve in the future. So brilliant answers. Thank you again. I don't want to be the only one asking these wonderful panelists questions, so we're going to open it up for audience Q&A. Muthu, do we have a mic for the audience, or how do we want to handle it? Yeah, okay.
I want to make a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Amber.
That's not.
I love Inder's comments, by the way, on the energy infrastructure, and I'm waiting for the day when you can have us. So we've been electric vehicle drivers for 3 years. We charge at home, and the DTE has an excellent program actually that we use for that off-peak charging. And I think the day's not that far where we're going to have solar roofs. The battery and energy storage system will kind of store the energy and then have V2X capability, and then the ability potentially to sell power back to the grid. So that's a really exciting thing that you just talked about, and I just wanted to give a shout out to this.
Thank you. And people do have the ability right now. There is in the legislation, as you guys all know, that utility is regulated, and so there's certain programs. So that's called distributed resources. Your utility is expected to buy certain, level of megawatts from the customers, and I see that happening in the future. Very near future, right? You and I talked about it yesterday, that how bidirectional, even with the vehicles, right? You can, currently DTE has a program that if you charge your vehicles off hours, there's that you get much cheaper rates, which I want to encourage all of you to take advantage of that. So when that bidirectional becomes more reality, then, you can actually charge your vehicle from DTE load perspective at a lower rate and release that energy at a higher, whether you're, fueling your, your needs or, to the grid needs. I think it's a great, great opportunity for all of us.
I just asked my question. Great insights. What are you guys thinking? Are you guys thinking about flying cars? And how is that impacting the system? That's like innovation.
I know a guy who's working on it.
Auto show, in the auto show.
Yeah, they're not too far. They're coming very soon.
Yeah.
Traffic control is going to become a real mess for the flying cars.
I mean, at this point, I think I know enough to be dangerous, so I'll be careful what I say, but I do know of somebody who's founded a flying car company, and it seems like a really interesting idea. I think the big problem to solve there is just the range, right? And then obviously air traffic and having regulations around air corridors and altitude levels, to keep it safe. I think those are the big things. But yeah, that's another, think of a mobility, right? That's another thing that's going to coming our way pretty, who knows? I've read It could be 3 to 5 years away, it could be longer, but we don't know at this point.
Looks like we have a question back there.
I think the safety aspect of it too is going to be quite a challenge, right? So lots to work out there.
There were some early adopters here. I think 2017 there was a session here on Detroit flying cars. There was a gentleman presented. Well, that company is not really taken off, but he was one of our presenters.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
enough investment in the venture space there, so we'll have to wait and see.
Go ahead.
The follow-up question is, I mean, we talked about the whole grid stuff and saying how the reliability, I know we want it, but somehow sitting in Michigan and other places due to weather and other reasons seems to be a lot less reliable, right, compared to what we see today. I mean, most of my friends are saying, let's get a generator, it was not the case before, it's going back to that day. So do you see sometimes sooner, like how we talked about a little bit about charging, going from a centralized thing to decentralized? You go to old plants in GM and Ford today, you seem to have their own problems, right? So are we looking at individual, decentralized, not just delivery, but generation? And saying each one is on themselves to go ahead and do that, whether it's solar is catching, but really not in Michigan, but in other areas. And do you see that coming up in these 10 years? Is that even in the discussion of EVs?
So it is. We have certain percentage by legislation that is decentralized, right? That's what the Choice Customer Program is all about. About 15% is the limit. I think our Michigan Public Service Commission is really concerned about the reliability. And then that has to, generation has to link with the transmission as well as the distribution systems as well. When you decentralized it, then who really owns it? From overall reliability perspective, we will start seeing a lot more issues like we experienced in 2003, the blackout. So as a result of it, actually, government has, FERC has centralized even overall distribution and transmission, how generation is produced under the ISOs. So I do see that there's going to be some decentralization. Customers will always have options, and they still do. But I don't know if it's going to be ever 100%. I think for reliability perspective, from affordability perspective, I think those two are the key, that our service commissions will keep it, public service commissions will keep it somewhat centralized.
I think one last question.
They have to work together in order to drive it. In Europe, industry and politics, they fall on the same animal, right? Politics needs support from the industry to move ahead. Otherwise, if industry resists, politics will not go ahead. So how far are you working towards the future? You know, supporting the political will, drive the political will towards the future. How far are you working towards that? So there's a change that's possible that Europe already made this change. I think US is lagging behind.
So I can touch it from the generation side of it, what we're doing, right? As a utility, we do work hand in hand with our legislators and our Public Service Commission, trying to make sure that the overall system reliability is a #1 focus, not only as a utility, GT, energy consumers, and other smaller, power producers that are in the state, and then also with our transmission company. Vanita is here from ITC. There's, regular conversations. So you guys probably heard Governor's My Healthy Climate Plan for Michigan, right? Or Michigan Healthy Climate Plan, which has targets for decarbonization. That has to be balanced with what is it going to cost to decarbonize, as well as, from the reliability perspective. So we work very closely. We have a regulatory group that is always working with the legislators and industry partners to make sure the decisions that are being made or legislations that are being passed are in the best interest of our customers. You guys want to add any perspective?
Okay. All right, I think we're out of time. I think we're at time, maybe. So thank you again, all three of you, for saying yes when we asked. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, wonderful panelists. You kickstarted the day very well. Do you have a little token of appreciation for them? Thank you. Ashwini, you should get one too. Yeah. And more coming. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Amrit. So we are about to, one second. We are about to move from the main atrium into a couple of breakout rooms. So after this, you don't have to move. So please stay for 2 minutes. And I'd like to recognize and acknowledge our sponsors. So right from, we have GMS Registrar, DEP, and GHD, who are our big sponsors. They are one of the reasons that we started this. And we have several, as you see from the videos. So we have a little message from, you have the first video.
There are those who push the limits of invention and innovation. They do it for themselves and for the rest of us. The dreamers, the doers, the inventors, the drivers, the game changers, the people shaping the future. They build upon the legacy of those who have gone before them, while moving us forward, realizing new ways to get there. By challenging the status quo, taking on new problems and finding new solutions. Making things that are more than just things. Instead, they are things that transform, build the future, go beyond limits. Connect us with everything. Things that make our lives and your life better.
Thank you. So we'll take this opportunity to recognize all the ASEI National Board members who are here. So of course you heard from Piyush earlier, he's our National President, ASEI National President. We have ASEI National Vice President Ram, please rise. We have National Treasurer Jwalant, our longtime National Board member Rakesh, and Vatsala, if you are around somewhere, is our ASEI National Secretary. Thank you. So, Cruz. Oh, I'm sorry. So we have long-termers Shrikant Agrawal in the room. He's been associated with the ASEI National Board, one of our advisors. We have G. Satish, please rise. All the way from Southern California. Thank you for joining. Of course, Thomas G. Dr. Thomas Abraham, who's been a long supporter of ASEI. He's from the East Coast. So everybody, all the regions of USA is covered. So we'll play one more sponsor video, after which we'll have 2 tracks running. Energy, infrastructure, and the likes will be going into Woodward Room, which is right outside here. And digital evolution, AI, and the mobility type of topics will be in the Jefferson Room. So take a couple of minutes, watch the video, then we can be dispersing. We'll be starting from there like in 5 minutes. Video, please.
There's like nobody in there. Nope. There's like nobody in there.
No driver. Wow, exciting.
This is crazy. It's going all by itself. We are taking Mom